You can't wait to get fixed before you get up and win. I need for you to win wounded.
Seeking authenticity in conversation.
Now watch this. I know this is going to be a shocker to you.
Craving real-time connection.
You hit me. Because I felt it always made me cry. I understand it.
Find it all, where narratives come to life.
Yes, we're ready.
Crafted by our voices for our hearts, giving you that feeling. Every emotion, every story. Our promise to you. In the Black Network, where feelings intertwine with narratives.
Welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. Today, we are honored to have a visionary leader in the media industry, the founder and CEO of the groundbreaking streaming AVOD platform, In the Black Network, James DuBose, with an illustrious career, including as a general manager at Fox Soul. James is on a mission to bring back a sense of Black pride to television. His new venture, the In the Black Network, officially launched in October of 2023, and its goal is to provide a platform where viewers not only watch, but also feel the essence of Black pride, inspiration, and entertainment, and of course, a touch of Black excellence. Here with us is James DuBose. James, welcome to the Black Presses Let It Be Known.
Thanks for having me. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you taking out the time from the left coast.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's an honor.
So you mentioned previously, I heard you mention about this sense of Black pride is missing from television. Can you elaborate on why you believe this is crucial and how In the Black Network will address this gap?
I really believe a lot of the traditional outlets, as we all know, either start or have a great bit of their revenue come from our culture and our shows and our programming. And then when they've made that revenue and they decide they've had enough of us, you don't see any more representation
Absolutely.
on that particular platform anymore. So it's like, and I always tell people, you really can't expect people who don't know our culture or respect our culture to help us enhance our culture, right? And so I wanted to finally come back, have the opportunity to be a place in the Black Network where we are able to celebrate Black history, Black culture 365 days a year. We're never throwing us away.
Yeah. And considering your previous role at Fox Soul, give us a little bit more insight on the inspiration, the motivation behind launching this, and what can we expect? I mean, there's been some things already. Kind of highlight for us for those who have missed it since you've launched. Kind of highlight some of the things missed and some of the things that are coming up.
Yeah, so I'll start with the Fox Soul question first. I think that's very important, right? When Fox initially approached me back in March of 2019, as they was thinking about launching their first OTT platform, they asked me my thoughts regarding the African American community. And my first question was, are you going to allow us to be our own, represent our own, and run this thing from top to bottom? And what I didn't want to be is the Black face in front of this thing where the people not of the culture pull them strings behind it. Now, and to their credit, they really did that for the most part, but they own it. So you can't go into another person's home that they own and expect to make all the rules. And then at some point, things started to change. The economics of the business started to change, and Fox decided to go in a different direction because the goal was to, if not 100% Black owned, at least allow Fox Soul to be the majority Black owned. And we had talked about that a little bit. And as I said before, things started to change. So as that started to happen, I felt like it was the perfect opportunity for me finally to jump out the window, so to speak, and pursue this dream, because I felt like there was a real purpose behind it. And, to Fox credit, I must say, to help me get this started, they allowed me to take the majority of the projects that we developed while at Fox Soul to give me an opportunity to get started. So I can never say enough about that because that's a big deal, especially in this business.
Yeah.
But with that said, within the Black Network and the team that we have, my goal is to really show the totality of the culture. I say that quite a bit. You see one side of us on most of these other places, but you don't see us, the totality of us. So we were able to start with a great deal of beautiful films from Homestead, Maverick Entertainment, but you see those films at a lot of other places. We had our first original talk show, Crown, with Vivica A. Fox and Selena Johnson, and Chanel Nicole Scott, and L'Oreal. Then we brought on our first scripted show called Sincerely Love. And I'm going through the type of shows that we have. We have
Yep.
talk, we have a 24-hour sports, fast channel, Unbeaten. We have our faith-based channel with Merge TV. And now we brought Urban Flicks over, that was once an SVOD. We brought that over as a fast channel as well. And on February 15th, we'll be launching 70 hours of African content as ITBN goes global. And again, the African market was so important to us because, first of all, that's a great business when you can go internationally with what you're doing, right?
Right.
But the purpose behind it also was, a lot of us from where we come from don't get an opportunity to travel. So we think the world consists of the little bubble that we live in our own communities. And I wanted to make sure that I bring different content over from different cultures, different countries, and so forth, but the people that still look like us. So if you haven't had the opportunity to travel, you can travel through watching these cultures through these type of shows and so forth. So I'm really excited about where we're headed.
Yeah, and you mentioned two key things, I think. One, of course, ownership. We often talk to musicians about ownership of their catalogs and things of that nature. But you also have it within the Black Network. I mean, we've dealt, of course, a lot with Neil Anderson. Of course, you have news and information. Talk about the importance of ownership as far as news is concerned. I mean, we're the Black press here, and we certainly understand that it's extremely vital on our part that we maintain ownership of our assets. Talk about that, if you will, and where does that play as far as your vision and what really prompted you to go all out like this?
Yeah, no, absolutely. First of all, a sincere thank you because platforms like this, the Black press and so forth, are extremely important that not talked about enough, right? And that doesn't give enough credit that how you guys have really helped the Black culture move on. But we also have ITBN News, which is what I like to call not news, but ITBN culture. Because
Yeah,
if you look at the news traditionally about us, it's psychologically debilitating. All we're doing is going to jail, getting shot, dying, and so forth.
right.
That's the report that they give us. There's a lot of beautiful things that are going on in our community and in our culture that's not in the news, that's not of the culture. So that's very important for us to be able to bring that to the young and old, because if you're just seeing images that look like you, that are being locked up and in handcuffs and put in police cars and going to jail or dying every day, you seem to think that that's what you're supposed to become. But there's a lot of great important figures that's in the culture that are doing great things that is never in the news. So, and then with the elections coming up, right,
Hmm.
which is extremely important. Politics is extremely important to the culture, but a lot of us are not really into it because we don't really understand it. And quite frankly, a lot of us don't really see the benefit of who you select or who you vote to go into office. And I think that's because we don't have the information. No one is really feeding us as a culture the information
Informed.
to make these type of exactly to make these educated decisions, if you will. So Nielle, who you mentioned, is the news to me. She loves our culture. She's a great advocate for our
Yep.
culture, and so it was very important to not only report the totality, as I mentioned, of the news process, but to have someone who is passionate about our people and passionate about getting the news out there in the proper way with the proper narrative. And when you have ownership, you can do that.
Yeah, and look, she represented you guys very well at our recent Midwinter Conference, the Black Presses Midwinter Conference, NMPA. Gave a nice presentation, talked about In the Black
Yeah.
Network, and really gave us, hipped us to what's going on there. And so this is why it's also such a pleasure at this time to have the boss on, have the big guy on, and talk about it some more. Um, and also, you mentioned travel. You mentioned the importance of black folks traveling. I can't, James, say enough. I tell my kids, I travel with my kids a lot, how much of an education that is. And it seems like many too many black folks are not taking advantage of, whether they are able to or not, traveling, particularly like you mentioned, Africa and different places. Um, Bringing that to them, what do you feel that's going to accomplish? Bringing the world to those who are not out there traveling.
Right. It's like books. When you read books, you expand your mind, your imagination, right? But when you actually see it visually, and these different people that look like you but are different cultures that have a different accent, I think hopefully it will open the minds and want people to travel and want our culture to go see various parts of the country, and where our people also live outside of the United States. And get to know them and know that, first of all, our history and where we really come from, what we really represent, who we really are. We're not what they want us to think we are,
Right.
in that regard, and have a sense of pride in being black. Like, have a sense of pride of loving in your culture, and not no matter what anyone thinks of us or you or what they may say. And I think the more we see each other represented in different ways, it will hopefully inspire people to want to go see more of the world than just where
Yeah.
they are.
Absolutely. And you talked about the flexibility and on-demand nature of streaming being the future. How does the In the Black Network capitalize on these trends, and what role does it play in the evolving media industry?
Well, the thing is, first of all, content is king, right? And just to put it out there, my mission, my ultimate goal is to build our own Black Tubi, our own Black Netflix, right?
Hmm.
Where you ain't got to download 5, 6, 7, 10 different platforms to see a little bit of Black content over here or a little bit
Right.
of Black content over there. I want to bring it in one place, right?
Which would be
And then with
refreshing.
that, which right, so that's the ultimate goal, and it's a daunting task, but I believe in it with every fiber in me. Um, the second part of that is, we know our culture spins with these advertisers. We know our culture spins with these brands, right? And so always the argument is that, however, when it comes to spending on Black media outlets, and I'm sure you guys have the exact same
Yeah, I know
experience,
where you're going.
you you get very little of the pot, right?
Hmm.
So I believe if you have quality content and you bring in the eyeballs, impressions, or whatever you call it, and they're staying, you put the more pressure on the advertisers and the brands that want to reach the Black culture. They got to come one place. Right now, they don't necessarily have to go to any Black owned media to get the Black eyeballs, because we're a little bit all over the place, because
Right.
traditionally we haven't been able to have enough diversified um, content, that way you can come to one place and just binge and you don't have to leave.
Yeah, yeah. And why, James, from your viewpoint, this hasn't been uh, able to be accomplished prior to now within the Black.
I I don't, and we're just getting started. Like, we just had our 3 month anniversary on
Right.
January the 2nd, right? Um, at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is, it's hard to get enough capital to keep up the content that's going to keep the interest of the viewer. It's not anyone is any smarter than anyone else. It's not like this idea is new by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that, how can you compete when the banks are giving millions and millions over here, and it's very difficult for us to go and get the capital in order to do marketing
Right.
and ad buys and get the right content. So, and that's one of the reasons I think it's so important for us. You're hearing this word bundle these days. Even a lot of the bigger networks and studios are starting to bundle because they see the
Yeah.
benefit of it. And that's what I want us to do, is to bundle so we can come to one place, so we can all share, right, in the revenue, but we can force the ad market to come to us.
Mhm.
I just am so tired of us having to chase. I want us to start attracting.
Yeah, and I know a businessman like yourself, you have to be operating with some sort of serious confidence here. What makes you so optimistic that this is going to prevail? This is going you're going to make this thing work.
I've never felt more comfortable, if that makes sense, or walking in my purpose. Meaning, it is such a beautiful struggle, and there is no question in my spirit that this is, through all my life's ups and downs and everything, the mistakes that I've made, the positives. Um, this feels like why I was put here. This feels like, and things are happening in ways right now that I'm not that smart. So it has to be God that's really blessing me and putting things in place for me to do that. And I really believe I'm the least person that really matters here. I am doing this really for the culture. I am doing this for us, um, in earnest. I'm trying to be effective, not famous.
Right. You
I
got to move
just
with a
want to be
purpose.
effective, and that's why not even feel. There's a difference from believing and knowing.
Right.
And I know this is going to work, and this is where I belong.
So earlier you mentioned about the fast channels. Can you tell us more about the fast channels on the In the Black Network and how they advance the viewer experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it goes back to the diversity of the content, right? So if you love sports, and we represent a lot of the sports outlets, why wouldn't I have a sports channel where you can come and watch live if you want to, as well as VOD? So we partnered with Unbeaten, which was gracious enough to allow us to have boxing and documentaries on Muhammad Ali and LeBron James and Serena Williams and all those people. Right. The next thing is, our whole livelihood, our whole generation, our whole culture is built on faith, right?
Hmm.
For the most part. So why wouldn't I have a faith-based channel where you can come and get that content? You can come and hear the word, no matter what faith you're in. You can come and be filled up with God, on a daily basis. And then Urban Flicks, which I found to be an outstanding content curator with the scripted shows, the movies, and so forth, um, and it's owned by a black man. I thought, let's bring that over, because again, outside of having capital to do original content every day across the board, which is not possible at this moment, um, the best thing to do is to partner with the right things that I feel like the culture wants to see on a daily basis. And my goal is to add more and more fast channels, music channels, fashion channels, things of
Right.
that nature. Everything that our culture touches and appreciates, I want to bring it in the Black Network.
And again, going back to what you mentioned about In the Black Network Africa, that I understand is launching like really soon. Or how do you envision that impacting not just the region, but globally?
If I could get the people in Africa and other places to watch into the Black Network where they are, that's a win-win, right? In
Right.
terms of eyeballs and impressions and things like that. But most importantly, to let that culture over in Africa to see themselves represented in the United States in the right way, that's created by them, that's owned by them, that's for them, so to speak. I really believe in this. Like, I'm hanging my head on the fact that this type of strategic partnership and this type of content globally is what's missing for a lot over here in the States anyway.
And the election 2024, you've articulated well the importance of it. We talked a little bit about being informed. We know that many are not informed, but
Mhm.
what is your election coverage going to look like? How do you plan to contribute to the discourse from a Black perspective?
Well, first of all, we want to get the truth out, right? And we want to have voices that are not afraid to speak the truth on our behalf. So, someone like Niel, Sharon Reed, um, voices that do the research, but also can articulate it in a way where we can understand it, that we can digest it and know what we need to do for ourselves. So there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially from the Black community. There's a lot of misinformation in terms of how well they're thinking about us and how much they want to help us and things of that nature. And it's just not the case at all. So what we want to do is bring voices that's going to inform you in a way that you could is this easily digestible, and then present that on a daily basis every day leading up to the elections. Um, that people can start to understand the world of politics, to start to understand, when the presidential race come, of course they want to talk about us and be a part of us and campaign in our neighborhoods and so forth. But then soon as the elections are over, we barely hear
Right.
from these people anymore.
Yeah, exactly. When it's over, so is that goodwill, right? For the most
Exactly.
part. Do
Exactly.
you envision at all, perhaps some town halls, some sort of candidate forum or anything like that for the End of Black Network?
Absolutely. We are actually, Niel is actually working on some town hall events right now, trying to get the White House involved as well. And I think that's very important. And again, I actually want to bring some of the candidates to In the Black Network that will, to see if they'll speak to us directly. Like,
Right.
don't go on these traditional outlets and then say how important the Black community, the Black vote is to you. Come to where we are. So we're going to try to be as bullish as possible in trying to get these candidates who want our vote to come to our network where we are to speak to us directly and not around us and not let somebody else write the narrative for them. And I think town halls are very important because we want our culture and our community to be able to ask direct questions that they don't get answered at other places.
Yeah, and you raised such a great point. I won't keep you too much longer, but you raised a great point about candidates speaking directly to Black folks. I recall in 2019, I guess it was, yeah, it was, the Black Press had its annual summer convention in Cincinnati, and we invited all of the candidates for president to come speak at our convention. Only one of them came, and that was Bernie Sanders. And Bernie
Mm.
Sanders electrified the place. I mean, it was packed too, right? And later on, Joe Biden came and spoke with the Black press at a meeting in Charlotte. But then ultimately, when Bernie dropped out of the race, he endorsed Biden, and all of that Black support. And I think Bernie Sanders doesn't get enough credit for the Black support. And the reason, one reason that he had so much Black support, because he had no problem coming to the Black press. He had no problem coming to Black people and talking directly to them. Um, I think you make a great point. They have to engage, right? They have to engage directly.
Absolutely. And the big part of it is I really want our community to understand that the most important elections are not necessarily the presidential
Right.
election. And that's what we miss. It's our local electives and is in the House and the Senate and the Congress and all that, because you think the greatest president in the world, but if all the other pieces are not in place where they can do the things that they need to do, or it's not going to get done. So again, for the most part, I don't believe they tell us that part. They don't want to know where the real control and power starts, and that is what we're going to make sure we get across at the End of Black Network, whatever we do during this election, because the president is just a byproduct of the foundation, and that foundation starts way before the presidential election.
Yeah, absolutely. And James DuBose, before we let you go, tell us how our audience, or anyone for that matter, who might be interested in tuning in, how could they watch the End of Black Network? Share various ways that they can access and engage within the Black Network?
Yes, sir. You could download it on your App Store, Google Drive. We're also on every smart TV that you may have, Sony, LG, Samsung. Just look up In the Black Network. And I want to just be clear on that model. You got to go to Netflix to watch Netflix. You got to go to Tubi to watch Tubi. I want you to be able to come to In the Black Network to watch In the Black. I don't want to have a part of us over here and a part of us over here. Download the app, explore it, please enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, that's fine. But we know that you will. So we're on all the places that wherever you can go get apps and your content on TVs, we're there. Just type in the Black Network and we'll be there.
Well, it sounds really good. We know that you got at least one great person at In the Black Network, and that's Niel. So
Absolutely.
so now we got to check out everybody else. But we appreciate you
Yes.
taking out the time with the Black Press of America. Let it be known. This has been really enlightening, James, and all the best. We are certainly pulling for you. We will be rooting for you constantly to succeed, and not just succeed, but to just break down all of the doors and barriers that have stood in the way forever to get something like this launched. So congratulations and keep up the great work.
No, I appreciate that very much. But I'm not naive enough to think that I'm ever going to do this alone. So having opportunities like this with you in the Black Press, it's just another opportunity that I know it's extremely important, and I mean that sincerely. So thank you very much for having me.
Well, the founder of the In the Black Network. Check them out, folks. Thanks a lot, James.
Thank you.
Everybody have a great day.